NTD.
Good morning. Here are today's top stories. The U.S. stepping up efforts to support Ukraine as President Biden is set to meet with Pope Francis in Italy. The latest from the G7 summit and the new security agreement between the U.S. and Ukraine.
Hezbollah and Israel continue to battle it out at the border. The Lebanese terror group launching a second consecutive day of attacks into northern Israel. The Iran-backed group stoking fears of a possible war in Lebanon.
The Supreme Court unanimously rules to preserve the FDA's relaxed requirements for the abortion pill mifepristone, and a bill to enshrine access to in vitro fertilization fails in the Senate. Here are reactions from Republicans and Democrats.
While former President Trump returns to the nation's capital, First Lady Jill Biden hits the campaign trail targeting senior voters in key swing states. President Biden aims to secure support from voters aged 65 and older.
Apple edges past Microsoft as the most valuable public company in the world, and Elon Musk wins Tesla shareholders' approval for a $56 billion pay package. The details with Don Ma of NTD's Business Matters.
Are we able to become masters in new skills later in life? We speak to a professor who says it is not too late to learn. Tips on how to transform our brains through learning and practice.
This is NTD Good Morning. Live from our global headquarters, here are Evelyn Lee and Kevin Hogan.
Welcome to NTD.
Happy Friday, everyone. It's June 14th. And today's top news, President Biden signing a 10-year security pact with Ukraine as he announces new steps to counter China and Russia.
It comes as G7 leaders will soon unveil their final communique, and Zelenskyy certainly gave President Biden a very warm thank you over this, although it was much less than what he wanted.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure people are still waiting to see if this agreement, will actually survive the U.S. election in November, and of course also the elections that just happened in Europe.
Yeah, and keep in mind, this agreement has no funding involved in it. It's just a commitment for America to work with Congress to pass more funding, and you saw that slim majority of those GOP lawmakers really being opposed to that.
Right, so let's hear more about that from NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao, who's on the ground in Italy.
It's day 2 of the G7 summit here in Italy, and leaders are focused on helping Ukraine and countering threats posed by China. President Biden this morning talking with Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni about a new G7 agreement to use profits generated by frozen Russian assets to fund Ukraine.
We're not backing down.
Biden confirmed the move last night as he, together with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, signed a 10-year security agreement pledging long-term U.S. support for Ukraine.
Not by sending American troops to fight in Ukraine, but by providing weapons and ammunition, expanding intelligence sharing, continuing to train brave Ukrainian troops.
Biden also called out China for its role in supporting Russia. The U.S. has just expanded sanctions to stop China from supplying Russia with materials used in the war.
China is not supplying weapons, but the ability to produce those weapons and the technology available to do it. So it is, in fact, helping Russia.
Meanwhile, Friday's talks will be dominated by concerns surrounding China's industrial overcapacity. Biden today will also meet with Pope Francis, the first pontiff to attend a G7 summit. Reporting from Bari, Italy, Iris Tao, NTD News.
A U.S. Navy submarine has arrived in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, as a fleet of Russian warships gather in the region for planned drills.
U.S. Southern Command says the USS Helena, a nuclear-powered attack submarine, pulled into waters near a U.S. base yesterday.
That's a day after a Russian frigate, nuclear-powered sub, oil tanker, and rescue tug arrived in Havana Bay. Russia said it had been practicing long-range strike drills in the Atlantic Ocean.
The Pentagon says the Russian warships do not represent a threat to the U.S. The U.S. military says it's tracking and monitoring the Russian drills.
The exercises come less than 2 weeks after President Biden authorized Ukraine to use U.S.-provided weapons to strike inside Russia.
Russia is formally accusing jailed U.S. reporter Evan Gershkovich of spying. The U.S. State Department reacted yesterday after Russia sent the case to court.
There's absolutely zero credibility to those charges. We have been clear from the start that Evan has done nothing wrong. He should never have been arrested in the first place. Journalism is not a crime.
The Wall Street Journal reporter has been detained in Moscow since March of 2023 when he was arrested and charged with spying. A Russian government official announced Thursday that they've determined Gershkovich collected secret defense and military information in Russia under instructions from the CIA. Gershkovich, his employer, and the U.S. government have denied the accusations. The Wall Street Journal spoke out in defense of Gershkovich, calling the case an assault on free press. Gershkovich is the first journalist to be arrested on such charges since the Cold War.
And over in the Middle East, terrorist group Hezbollah continues to increase hostilities at Lebanon's southern border.
The Iran-backed terror group launched more rockets and drones at Israel yesterday for a second day in a row.
The terrorist group vowed to step up attacks after an Israeli strike killed one of its senior commanders this week.
Israeli officials say around 40 projectiles were fired from Lebanon yesterday afternoon. Hezbollah said it launched attack drones at Israel's Northern Command headquarters, an intelligence headquarters, and a military barracks.
Israeli officials say 2 people were wounded by shrapnel. Group of 7 leaders meeting in Italy said they were very concerned about the situation at the Israel-Lebanon border.
And now Iraq and Iran's foreign ministers are showing concerns about a possible war in Lebanon. NTD's Jason Perry has the war update.
On Thursday, Hezbollah terrorists fired approximately 40 projectiles toward northern Israel, with many of them causing fires after they landed. The Iran-backed terrorist group increased its attacks on Israel in recent days after Israeli forces killed the most senior Hezbollah commander since the war started. And on the same day, the Israel Defense Forces, or IDF, released a video said to show strikes on Hezbollah military structures. An Israeli government spokesperson addressed the situation.
Whether through diplomatic efforts or otherwise, Israel will restore security on our northern border. Lebanon and Hezbollah, under the guidance of Iran, bear full responsibility to the deterioration of the security situation in the north.
His words come as the IDF continues to train for a possible ground offensive into Lebanon. The foreign ministers of Iraq and Iran met on Thursday and talked about this very issue.
God forbid, if an attack occurs on Lebanon, then this will have an impact on the entire region.
Meanwhile, in Rafah, the IDF reported locating weapons and killing several terrorists in close quarters combat. Israel's recent ground offensive into the southern Gaza city is causing more residents there to move once again.
Everyday negotiations. Everyday negotiations. Who are you lying to? Solve this for us. We are emotionally tired. They tell you to leave this place and go to the city of Khan Yunis. From the city of Khan Yunis to Rafah. We feel like we are like toys.
Also in the Gaza Strip, Israel recently released some prisoners who had been detained since around October 7th. People greeted them in the streets, and one of them complained about his time in detention.
We have left, but we call on you to get the rest out. There are detainees who are dying, suffering which you cannot imagine unless you experience it.
And the mother of a rescued Israeli-Russian hostage said her son was also abused while held captive by Hamas.
Andre told us, there are some things I will never tell you. I don't know what he didn't tell us and what he doesn't want to ever tell us.
There are still approximately 120 hostages who remain in the Gaza Strip, and negotiations for a ceasefire to release them appear to have stalled. Jason Perry, NTD News.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken says the haggling by Hamas needs to stop. He's urging Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar to end the war.
Blinken told NBC yesterday Sinwar is relatively safe underground, while the people he claims to represent are suffering every day.
Meanwhile, a senior Hamas member told CNN no one has an idea how many of the remaining 120 hostages are still alive.
The terrorist demanded any deal must come with guarantees of a permanent ceasefire and the complete withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza.
And meanwhile, with just 4 months until the general election, President Biden is ramping up his campaign. First Lady Jill Biden is reaching out to seniors, a demographic that makes up a large share of the population in some swing states.
Jill Biden is pushing back against concerns about her husband's age. It comes as President Biden is gaining with voters his own age. The First Lady is traveling across several swing states to kick off her husband's outreach to senior voters. Her travels include rallies.
You know, a lot of presidents talk about infrastructure, but Joe made sure that communities like this one are getting the money you need to rebuild your bridges, your roads, your railways, your airports, and so many other infrastructure projects.
And also bingo nights and pickleball games. Biden is working to become the first Democrat in nearly a quarter century to win those 65 and over. A Democratic community organizer in Michigan describes what she hopes will be a revival with senior voters.
They're at a point in their life where they've seen how politics has changed and recognize that it's a priority for them.
Grand Rapids and surrounding Kent County is a bellwether within battleground Michigan. Biden won here and statewide in 2020 after Trump narrowly carried both 4 years earlier. Older voters are weighing in on the November race.
I never thought I'd be one of those people holding up a political sign or being involved, but I can't sit back.
I feel betrayed. Right now, I'm not going to vote for president. The Palestine thing it's a red line, and he's not there.
Senior voters are a much sought-after section of the electorate because they are reliable and turn out to vote.
Former President Trump held separate meetings yesterday with House and Senate Republicans in a bid to unite the party ahead of the 2024 elections.
Congressman Thomas Massie said something interesting on X, that Trump briefly brought up the idea of getting rid of income tax and replacing it with an all-tariff policy. Massie called it an intriguing policy idea.
Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene also commented on social media, saying she was thrilled to hear Trump suggest raising tariffs and lowering taxes. Trump's campaign did not respond to requests for comment, but the former president said on social media there was lots discussed, all positive. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez has more details on Trump's meetings.
House Republicans met with the former president at the Capitol Hill Club. The meeting lasted over an hour. Right after, I spoke with Congressman Derek Van Orden, the Republican from Wisconsin, and I asked them what was the main message from today's meeting. Let's listen.
What was the main takeaway from this meeting? For
Unity, Donald Trump working to maintain and grow the majority in the House, take the Senate and the White House, move forward collectively to have a country that is safe, secure, and prosperous. I was sitting there. I had to wipe my eyes because I was laughing so hard because people don't understand how incredibly humorous President Trump is.
I also spoke with House Freedom Caucus member Congressman Byron Donalds, the Republican from Florida, and he said that the former president had no policy demands from lawmakers.
Did President Trump mention anything about House GP strategy towards the DOJ?
No. He just talked about what he talked about was just how ridiculous the DOJ is. They have been weaponized against them. That's just a fact. And, so he talked about it, expressed himself. I think any American in his shoes would feel the same way.
Former President Donald Trump also met with Senate Republicans at the National Republican Senatorial Committee right after he held a short press conference. This is what he said.
This was a great meeting. There's tremendous unity in the Republican Party. We want to see borders. We want to see strong military. We want to see money not wasted all over the world. We don't want to see Russian ships right off the coast of Florida, which is what they are right now. That's unthinkable. We want to see just success for our country.
It's important to note that despite the public differences in between Senator from Utah Mitt Romney and former President Donald Trump, Senator Romney did attend the Senate GOP meeting with the former president. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
Up next, the Supreme Court rules the abortion drug mifepristone can stay on the market, saying the challengers didn't have standing to sue. Does that open the door to future lawsuits? An attorney's answer when we come back.
As we naturally age, many people are getting zero amount of this incredible and unique substance. That's when we start seeing an impact in our joints, skin, nails, and even our digestion.
People ask me, Dr. X, what is the #1 supplement I should be taking? My answer is multi-collagen protein.
People's reactions to me, people were like, what are you doing? What is going on? You look amazing. You have a glow about you.
What makes Ancient Nutrition Multi-Collagen stand out from other brands? 10 types of collagen. It's grass-fed, pasture-raised with vitamin C and probiotics. It's proven to reduce joint discomfort rapidly, continuously, and persistently. It improves the appearance of crow's feet after 4 weeks and improves skin tone after 8 weeks. And it promotes hair thickness, growth, and a reduction in hair breakage.
It has transformed everything from my hair. Like, my hair was starting to kind of just, come out, and I don't have that anymore. My skin feels amazing.
Call the number on your screen and find out how to get a free bottle when you order, plus free shipping and our 30-day money-back guarantee. And as a bonus, we will include Dr. Josh Axe and Jordan Rubin's revolutionary book, Multi-Collagen Makeover, free with your order, plus free shipping and free returns.
I have implicit trust in Dr. Axe because the plan worked. I'm living proof of it.
This is the collagen protein that is backed by clinical studies. It's what my family uses, it's what I use, and I know you're gonna benefit in a big way as well.
Love the results or get your money back. This special TV offer is not available in stores. Call the number on your screen or go online now.
Welcome back. The Supreme Court has unanimously rejected a lawsuit challenging how the Food and Drug Administration regulates access to the abortion pill mifepristone. Our legal correspondent Arlene Richards has more.
Supreme Court justices on Thursday unanimously decided that the physicians and anti-abortion groups that sued the FDA did not have standing to challenge how a woman gets access to the abortion pill mifepristone. While the case is not directly about abortion, the court's ruling does preserve a woman's ability to easily access the drug. Access to mifepristone became a more important issue after the court overturned Roe v. Wade 2 years ago. The drug is also prescribed for miscarriage treatment. Justice Brett Kavanaugh, writing the opinion for the court, said the plaintiffs couldn't sue the FDA based on the rare chance that they may someday have to treat a woman who suffers complications after taking mifepristone. He wrote, because plaintiffs do not prescribe or use mifepristone, plaintiffs are unregulated parties who seek to challenge the FDA's regulation of others. In 2016, the FDA deemed the drug safe to terminate pregnancies up to 10 weeks. Previously, it was 7 weeks. The agency also reduced the number of times a woman had to present for an in-person doctor visit, from 3 visits down to 1. In 2021, they announced that women were no longer required to visit a doctor in person, allowing telehealth visits instead, and permitted women to order mifepristone through the mail. Both supporters and critics are reacting to the ruling. Katie Daniels, State Policy Director of Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America, said in a statement, "The fight to stop dangerous mail-order abortion drugs is not over." She called the ruling a sad day for all who value women's health and unborn children's lives. Stella Dantis, president of the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, said the decision provides us with long-awaited relief. She said the findings allow patients and doctors continued access to mifepristone for medication abortion and miscarriage management. Kavanaugh explained in the ruling that the plaintiffs had to actually suffer an injury in order to have standing to sue the FDA. He said the injury had to be traceable to the pill or the FDA's decision to loosen its rules. And by requiring the plaintiffs to have an injury, it screens out people who only have a general legal, moral, or policy objection. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
For more on the Supreme Court's ruling that allows the abortion pill called mifepristone to stay on the market, we bring in Mark Miller. He's a senior attorney at the Pacific Legal Foundation. Good morning, Mark. Thank you for being here with us. In the Supreme Court's ruling, as we mentioned, it determined that the doctors suing did not have standing to bring forth the lawsuit. Does that open the door to other similar lawsuits in the future?
Yes, I think it's very fair to say that Justice Kavanaugh, in writing his opinion, was sending a message that there may be ways to challenge the abortion pill, but this was not the way. The Chief Justice Roberts, in this opinion, by getting Justice Kavanaugh to write a unanimous opinion, was sending a message that this court is not a politicized court. The justices obviously have different opinions on abortion, but that they all agreed this was not the right case. And what he's doing is sending a message that they believe in the rule of law, not in some sort of court of politics. That's not what's going on at the Supreme Court at all.
Understood, Mark. And it was this Supreme Court back in 2022 in that Dobbs decision that overturned Roe v. Wade, preventing access to abortion on a national scale. Can you go into a little bit more detail as to the messaging that you're referring to?
Yeah, so I think that there's really three takeaways from this decision, at least as Chief Justice Roberts probably wants it to be received. One, as I said, this is not a political court. This is not a court that's just going to vote by who appointed them, Republican or Democrat. Rather, they're going to decide a case on a question of law. Here, all 9 justices agreed that if you're a doctor and you don't prescribe this abortion pill by mail, or you don't receive it by mail, and you're not in any way forced to prescribe it or administer it, or treat somebody who's taken it, then you can't bring a lawsuit. You actually have to be injured by the pill, which is what I think you will see pro-life groups do next. They will find mothers, women who've been injured by the pill, and then challenge this abortion pill by mail regime. But that's going to take time. Secondly, states are still free to ban abortion or ban abortion by mail or abortion pill by mail. And I think you will continue to see states do that, the more pro-life, more conservative states. And 3, abortion's not going away at the Supreme Court. Certainly the court wanted the Dobbs decision maybe to be the end of it, but obviously it was just really another step in the country's fight over abortion.
And following up on what you're saying here, Mark, it's that Justice Kavanaugh was saying that these pro-life doctors who brought the lawsuit didn't really have to do or not do anything based on the FDA's relaxed regulations surrounding mifepristone. Were you surprised that it was a unanimous decision to uphold this access to this drug?
So for the most part, I was not surprised by the result because 8 of the justices signaled, even Justice Thomas signaled at the oral argument in the case, that they were not persuaded this was the right case, that these doctors didn't have standing, just like they ended up deciding. Justice Alito was the one sort of holdout at the oral argument who didn't seem persuaded by that argument. So the fact that Chief Justice Roberts, who's made a real emphasis on showing this is a court of law, that he wants 9-0 decisions. In fact, I think almost 2/3 of the decisions so far this year have been unanimous or near unanimous. So it didn't really surprise me. A little bit surprised me that Justice Alito went with the majority, but 8-1 versus 9-0 really wouldn't make a big difference in the grand scheme of things.
Well, yeah, Mark, and this case has very significant implications, this ruling, especially considering that Guttmacher said that in 2022, about half of all U.S. abortions were done through medication, as opposed to some of the other methods used later on in pregnancy, like C-section or induced labor and suction and things like that. Mark Miller, senior attorney at the Pacific Legal Foundation, thank you for weighing in this morning.
Always a pleasure to be with you.
State Senate Republicans, I should say, have blocked a bill that would have established a legal right to use in vitro fertilization, or IVF.
The so-called Right to IVF Act was sponsored by Democrats. It failed in a 48-47 vote yesterday. Senate Democrats slammed their Republican colleagues for not protecting what they called a woman's right to IVF.
Meanwhile, Senate Republicans said they support IVF, but opposed the measure because they consider it a Democratic attempt at election year messaging. Republicans put forward their own bill to protect access to IVF nationwide.
The move to enshrine access to IVF follows a February ruling from the Alabama Supreme Court. It ruled that human embryos created through the process are legally children under state law. Some IVF providers in the state suspended their services, fearing possible liability.
A former U.S. Customs officer was convicted of taking bribes to allow vehicles to smuggle drugs in from Mexico. Officials say he made over $13,000 per vehicle. Prosecutors said Leonard Darnell George worked for two gangs. They said he was responsible for at least 19 crossings between the end of 2021 and June 2022. Court documents state the vehicles contained methamphetamine, cocaine, fentanyl, and heroin. They also say the vehicles illegally transported people into the U.S. The Justice Department says witnesses confirmed George used the bribe money to buy vehicles and jewelry. It says he would regularly visit a gentleman's club in Tijuana where he spent around $5,000 per trip. A federal jury convicted George. His sentencing hearing is set for September. He's facing 10 years to life in prison. Up next, lawmakers ask Microsoft what it's doing to protect against Russian and Chinese hackers after a government report finds basic security flaws.
We have testimony from Microsoft's president on the tech giant's cybersecurity failures. June 14th marks the day the Continental Congress determined the composition of the American flag. The second-generation president of the National Flag Day Foundation explains the significance of our nation's banner and what it means to him. Stay tuned.
Do you ever wake up and realize your life has no purpose?
Do I have a death wish? Morgan asked. Maybe I did. I thought this would be our final run ever. We had made millions and millions of dollars, but God had other plans.
Peter Lowe, the one-time drug dealer turned pastor, along with two others, will be executed at 12 midnight local time.
The next day, something strange happened. Someone came up to me and gave me this flyer about Jesus.
You can be in heaven, or you can be in hell. The choice is yours.
We'll walk straight out of here. Pretend to be the media.
This pathetic maggot got caught trying to escape my prison. Nobody escapes my prison.
He's a changed person. He's a new man.
I found Christ in here, and he forgave me.
I found Christ too.
My name is Peter Lowe, and I will be executed in 2 hours. Why am I being executed, you ask?
Jesus is for free, and salvation is a gift.
Do you believe in Jesus?
Is it time yet?
It's time.
Let's go and time for dinner.
Oh, terrific.
Donating pet food is one of the many ways you can help families in your community. Pets and people belong together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
Adopting you was the best decision in our life. And I'm so proud to call you my son.
Welcome back, everyone.
And if you're just joining us now, here are some of today's top headlines.
President Biden signed a new security agreement with Ukraine yesterday, pledging long-term U.S. support during his meeting with the G7 in Italy. The deal says the U.S. will provide weapons, ammunition, and intelligence for Ukraine. It's meant to be a step towards Ukraine's eventual NATO membership.
Lebanese terror group Hezbollah launched a second consecutive day of attacks into northern Israel. Israeli officials say around 40 projectiles crossed the border yesterday. The Iran-backed aggression is stoking fears of a possible war in Lebanon. A group of 7 leaders in Italy said they were very concerned. The U.S. military is asking for de-escalation.
First Lady Jill Biden is campaigning for her husband across several swing states. President Biden is looking for support from a key election demographic, senior citizens. This while former President Trump returns to the nation's capital to meet with House and Senate Republicans in a bid to unite the party.
Senate Republicans blocked a Democrat-sponsored bill that would have established a legal right to use in vitro fertilization. It failed in a 48-47 vote yesterday. The move to enshrine access to IVF follows a February decision from the Alabama Supreme Court. The ruling says human embryos created through the process are legally children under state law.
A series of storms flowing from the Gulf of Mexico swamps South Florida with flash floods. The storm stalled cars, canceled flights, and generally made life miserable for tens of thousands of people.
Some places got as much as 20 inches of rain in just a 48-hour period.
Dozens of cars could be seen still submerged in floodwaters yesterday afternoon in North Miami. Tow trucks were unable to pass due to the high waters.
Zooming out, a whole neighborhood can be seen inundated in water. Residents of Hollandale Beach, Florida, expressed surprise over the extent of flooding in their neighborhood.
Florida is prone to flooding, even on sunny days when so-called king tides surge in coastal areas. And tropical storms and hurricanes can trigger river flooding and overwhelm drainage systems.
Another 5 inches of rain are possible today. The National Weather Service said a flood watch remains in effect for all of South Florida tonight.
Governor Kathy Hochul is considering a ban on face masks in the New York City subway system.
This over concerns about people shielding their identities while committing anti-Semitic acts.
The potential policy would include exemptions for health, cultural, or religious reasons. Hochul's decision follows a recent incident where individuals frightened riders with anti-Semitic chants on a subway on Monday night.
Meanwhile, video circulating on social media showed a confrontation that allegedly happened earlier in the day. A man in Union Square was recorded shouting something to the effect that he wanted Hitler to still be around. He would have wiped all you out, he said. A group of people was waving Israeli flags also in the park at the time.
Hochul said she was in talks with lawmakers on potentially crafting a bill.
The governor emphasized that masks should not be used to hide criminal behavior.
And Microsoft's president says the company accepts responsibility for every cybersecurity flaw found in a U.S. government-backed report. This after Chinese regime-linked hackers breached the tech giant's network and accessed 60,000 federal government emails last year.
He testified Microsoft is facing aggressive foes in China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran. He welcomed the opportunity to improve together with Congress. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has some takeaways from the hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Microsoft President Brad Smith testified about the company's security practices and ties to China at a House Homeland Security panel on Thursday.
We have three objectives today: accountability, securing federal networks, and securing the broader internet ecosystem.
The hearing comes after a scathing government-backed report on the tech giant's cybersecurity flaws. That's after Chinese regime-linked hackers broke into Microsoft systems and accessed around 60,000 State Department emails last year. Microsoft's disclosures show Russian-linked cybercriminals spied on Microsoft's senior staff emails this year. A U.S. Cyber Safety Review Board report in April found Microsoft committed what it called a cascade of errors that allowed Chinese hackers to exploit basic well-known vulnerabilities using unsophisticated means.
In other words, this was avoidable.
Microsoft says it started acting on the report's recommendations last November, applying strategies from lessons learned.
We accept responsibility for each and every finding in the CSRB report.
Microsoft's president says the company is incorporating 18 concrete steps into future initiatives, on top of the report's 16 recommendations as part of its plan.
We now have the equivalent, full-time, of 34,000 engineers working on this project. This is the largest engineering project focused on cybersecurity in the history of digital technology.
Smith said Microsoft is focused on changing, strengthening, and building a world-class security culture. He says he's reminded employees no one ever died of humility.
Use the mistakes you make so you can learn from them and get better.
Smith said if Microsoft improves alone, it won't be enough. He welcomed the opportunity to learn and work together with Congress.
We're dealing with four formidable foes in China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, and they're getting better. They're getting more aggressive. We should all expect them to work together. They're waging attacks at an extraordinary rate.
Microsoft is a key vendor to the U.S. government and national security agencies. Smith says Microsoft earns around 1.5% of its revenue from China and is working to reduce its engineering presence there. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
Thank you.
And today is Flag Day. The holiday commemorates June 14th, 1777, when the Continental Congress determined the composition of the American flag.
NTD's Andrew Thomas spoke with the second-generation president of the National Flag Day Foundation to learn more about the significance of the nation's banner and what it means to him.
On June 14, 1885, Bernard J. Sagrand instructed his students to write an essay about what the American flag meant to them. The 18-year-old Wabuca, Wisconsin native would pass away in 1932. But in 1946, community leaders established the town's Flag Day celebration to honor his passion for a banner now recognized worldwide.
Why is Flag Day so important?
Our flag stands for so many incredible things. And when somebody says, well, how important is the flag? Well, I don't know. You'd have to ask Francis Scott Key, or you'd have to ask the men at Iwo Jima that stood it up during the battle, or you'd have to ask the firemen and policemen at Ground Zero, who the first thing they did was raise the flag in the rescue efforts.
On June 14, 1777, the Continental Congress decided that the flag of the United States of America would feature 13 alternating red and white stripes and 13 white stars in a field of blue. This represented the Union as a new constellation. President Woodrow Wilson proclaimed June 14th as Flag Day in 1916. In 1949, President Harry S. Truman signed the formal observance of the holiday into law.
It's the symbol that says, we'll help you, defend you, no matter who you are or where you are, if wrong is being committed. So it's a focus on our flag. It's a focus on what she means.
So what should Americans be thinking about on Flag Day?
Well, I'll tell you what I think about on Flag Day. I think about my freedoms. I think about how I am able to talk with you over the air right now, and we can have a discussion about what our beliefs are. One of the few countries in the world, if not the only country in the world, that this can happen.
Janik says the American flag is more than a symbol that represents our precious freedoms. It guides the nation.
And we know that freedom isn't free. And we know with that freedom becomes a real big responsibility, because we're not free to do whatever we want. We're free to do what's right. And that's part of why the flag is so important, because the flag creates our moral compass. It gives us our direction for right and wrong, and we can never lose sight of that.
Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Here's an interesting tidbit about the flag. When it was first created in 1777, the colors didn't really have any meaning, but later when the Great Seal was adopted in 1782, the red stood for valor and hardness, the white for purity and innocence, and even the blue for vigilance and perseverance and justice.
Nice. Good that they added this meaning and so much symbolism. All right, we're heading to a quick break. Still to come, Apple edges past Microsoft as the most valuable public company in the world, and Elon Musk wins Tesla shareholders' approval for a $56 billion pay package. The details with Don Ma of NTD's Business Matters.
Say goodbye to harsh, bitter coffee and hello to a delicious, smooth brew. With specialty quality beans, expertly roasted in-house, you'll taste the difference with every sip. Fermented with a blend of 50 enzymes, Days Coffee delivers a rich brew like no other. Made with the highest grade specialty beans available, you're sure to taste the difference. Elevate your morning with Days Enzyme Fermented Coffee.
Does shopping for bladder control products have you feeling like you need someone to be on the lookout for you? Now you have your privacy back. We're HDIS, and we home deliver bladder control products directly to you. We're always on the lookout for you. You get free shipping in plain, unmarked boxes. So your private matters stay private. We understand how you feel. For over 35 years, we've delivered bladder control products to millions of Americans, just like you. You don't have to worry about incontinence any longer. Call now for your free product sample pack and over $45 in money-saving coupons. At HDIS, we're always in stock. We carry all brands in hundreds of styles and sizes. You'll be sure to get what you need, guaranteed.
For your free sample pack with your free catalog and $45 in money-saving coupons and free product samples, call 800-701-6159. That's 800-701-6159.
The shining gem of New England. This delightful seaside city of Newport is one of the most beautiful places in the state. Today, we bring you here as we meet with our friends and fellow musicians from the Hermitage Piano Trio. As a team, they have garnered multiple Grammy Award nominations with their breathtaking performances.
Oh, wow, I did not think this instrument can make that sound, right?
The pandemic made this reunion even more special.
Three of us, we like it because we feel music the same way, so...
Don't miss us on the next episode of Piano Talks.
After 15 years of smoking, Eva Marie quit. There's a new lung cancer screening that could save her life. You stopped smoking. Now start screening. Learn more at savedbythescan.org.
Welcome back, everyone. Joining us now is NTD's Business Matters host, Don Ma, to give us the latest updates from the financial world.
Don, let's talk about some top stocks.
Yeah, so Apple is now the most valuable public company in the United States. So this happened after it took the top spot yesterday. This is after its new AI features being announced a few days ago. So that sent stocks soaring for Apple. Market cap for the company closed at $3.29 trillion yesterday, edging past Microsoft's $3.28 trillion valuation. So Apple shares rose over 0.5% on Thursday, yesterday. It's up 8.8% for the week.
I wonder if that has anything to do with their announcement to partner with ChatGPT. But then again, on that front, it's always kind of a neck and neck, and things change. Let's stay in tech. Tesla shareholders approved its CEO's, Elon Musk's $56 billion pay package. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so that was also a big thing yesterday. So, and this, what you just said now, is sending a strong vote of confidence in his leadership of the electric vehicle maker. Though Tesla did not disclose the voting tallies yesterday, which are expected to be revealed in the coming days. So the approval also underscores the support that Musk enjoys from Tesla shareholders and Tesla retail investor base. So the proposal passed despite opposition, as you remember, from large institutional investors and proxy firms. And as I said earlier, shareholder approval for the compensation serves both as an endorsement of Musk's tenure and an acknowledgement that investors do not want to risk the company's future, with Elon Musk being the face of the company. So yesterday, the shareholders also approved a proposal to move the company's legal home from Delaware to Texas. They also approved other proposals, including, for example, re-election of 2 board members, and that's including Musk's brother and as well as James Murdoch, which is the son of media mogul Rupert Murdoch. Yeah.
This has been a while in the works. I mean, 2018 was when it was initially approved, and then Musk announced he had success there, and then yesterday about 10:45, Tesla stocks are up 3%. All right, let's move on here. There's some trouble in the cocoa world. What news do you have for us about chocolate?
Yeah, so cocoa, which is a key ingredient to chocolate, prices back above $10,000 per metric ton yesterday, and they're heading toward all-time highs. So this comes as the chocolate industry supply crisis worsened, and after top producer Ivory Coast halted cocoa exports for June and forward sales for the next season. So on top of that, there were also reports that on Wednesday that the world's second largest producer of the chocolate ingredient is looking to delay delivery of up to 350,000 tons of beans to next season due to poor crops. Cocoa has been more than doubled in price this year and is now more costlier than some metals, in fact.
Wow. Yeah, 350,000 tons. Ghana and Ivory Coast, though, they make up 60% of the global production. We will feel that if something's happening, obviously, as we have seen now. And mortgage rates, again, eased this week. Where are we now?
So yeah, the latest pullback leaves the rate on a 30-year home loan close to 7%. This is where it's been much of this year. So the exact rate fell to 6.95%. This is according to mortgage buyer Freddie Mac. So borrowing costs on the 15-year fixed rate mortgages, which is popular, by the way, with homeowners refinancing their home loans, also eased this week, lowering the average rate to about 6.17%. So Freddie Mac's chief economist said that mortgage rates continue to fall back this week as incoming data suggests the economy is cooling to a more sustainable level of growth.
And experts are predicting that mortgage rates are going to continue to fall in the coming months, but there are a couple factors that can affect those predictions, geopolitics being one of them, and also economic data. Don Ma, host of NTD's Business Matters, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Coming up, are we able to become masters in new skills later in life? We speak to a professor who says it is not too late to learn. Tips on how to transform our brains through learning and practice.
There's a whirlwind of emotion and activity going on in this painting. And there's chaos all around and threat from below. The walls surrounding her, and they're anything but unmoved. They're moving all the time, and we sense that. But this little girl remains unmoved.
Tired of scrolling Netflix? Trying to find something that's worth watching? Want to skip the censorship in mainstream media? Well, now you can with Epic TV. New exclusive content every day with over 100 never-before-seen movies, films, and documentaries. Available and streaming now at your fingertips. For a limited time now, you can get 60% off Epic TV by subscribing or upgrading to a yearly plan. Plus, get an additional $10 credit to rent featured movies on Epic Cinema today. Skip mainstream narratives and find quality family entertainment from the comfort of your very own home. Say no to big tech and subscribe to Epic TV.
Losing the fear of looking foolish comes with age.
Who did you steal them from?
Losing your way in your own home doesn't. Confusion with time and place may be a sign of Alzheimer's.
Mom, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine.
Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's.
Hi there, welcome back. Have you ever wanted to win a tennis Grand Slam or be the best chess player in the world?
And if so, do you think it's too late to start learning now? Do we actually have to start young to master new skills? That's the question, and Arturo Hernandez says, no, you don't. He's a professor of psychology at the University of Houston and the author of Mastery: How Learning Transforms Our Brains, Minds, and Bodies. Good morning, Professor. That's a really interesting topic. So how important is it actually to start learning young? Did I miss my chance to become a violin virtuoso, for example? Is it too late now?
Thank you for inviting me, Evelyn. It's great to be here. Yes, starting early is really important. I think if you want to reach those high levels of achievement in virtually every kind of domain, there are some places where athletes, for example, an example is Hakeem Olajuwon, who was a soccer player and didn't really pick up basketball till about 16 or so, like a teenager. He became a great NBA player. So there are examples of maybe adolescent people who become world-class masters. There are some domains where people can become really good. Poker players, for example, can become really good when they learn later in life. But I think to become best in the world, that's a hard task for an adult to achieve. So I think we have to be mindful of that.
That's a really good point. Now, if we want to achieve, maybe not, we don't want to aim that high, but you're saying still reaching your goal, it depends on getting the right practice, right? It sounds like not all practice is created equal, so how do we approach it best?
Yeah, so there's a type of practice that was made famous by Anders Ericsson. He was a person who worked on the issue of mastery, and I talk about that in my book, Mastery: How Learning Transforms Our Brains, Minds, and Bodies. And the idea behind this type of practice is what's called deliberate practice. Deliberate practice involves feedback, right? So feedback has to do with the fact that when you do something, you get some sense of whether you're going in the direction you'd like to go or maybe not in the direction that you'd like to go. And that feedback, and sometimes being a little bit more difficult, which produces this feedback, I think it's really important to get practice of that type.
So what do you think about, we hear a lot about when we see somebody, especially polyglots that speak a lot of languages, oh, they're so talented, gifted. That's something we hear a lot, but how much do genes actually play a role here?
Yeah, that's always the $1 million question, and it's become a $5 million, $10 million question, because what's happened in the world of genetics is, of course, we're born with certain genes, and as I talk about in my book, there's an example, for example, of the Bryan brothers, who were very, very good tennis players. Their parents were tennis players. They became tennis players. They became a very good doubles team, but each one of them was different. Right, so one was left-handed, the other was right-handed. One was taller, one was shorter, one was stronger, one was slightly not as strong. And so genes do play a role. These are twins, by the way. So they're identical twins genetically, and yet the outcome is not identical. So genes play some role, but the environment changes things too, including the womb environment. Some argument has been that because twins are together, their handedness changes because one is right and one is left, depending on which hand is free. So even the womb environment before birth can play a role. So genes are important, but environments are important too.
Very interesting. Now, walk me through, in your book, you talk about the 5 principles of mastery. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so the 5 principles of mastery, right? So that they're I call them 5 principles, not the 5, because I think there are plenty of them beyond the 5. But these 5 that I've identified are will, right? So what do you like to do? What are you willing to do? Ability, are you pretty good at something? Sometimes we can be slightly better at some things than others. The 3rd is opportunity. I think we all need a chance. We all need some kind of door opening to allow us to continue getting better at something. The 4th one is flexibility. Flexibility is sometimes we need to change course. Sometimes we're not quite going the way we'd like to go. And then finally is clarity. I think the hardest one is clarity, right? What is it? Have we achieved what we want to do? Is it clear what our goal is? And I think those, for some people, it's super clear. For other people, it comes and goes, right? Sometimes there's clarity, and then we have to start over again.
So tell me more about, because it's in the title of the book, learning it transforms our brains. Tell me what does it do to our brains, our minds, and bodies to learn new skills?
Yeah, so when we learn new skills, so for example, if we pick up something like when we learn a baseball pitcher, so I talk about baseball, for example, when baseball players play, right, their brains adapt. The parts of the brain that are involved in vision adapt to seeing a baseball. And so what you would see is changes, in fact, I think, in the nerve cells within the visual areas of the brain that would actually be sensitive to the spin of the ball, to how fast it's coming, to the release. So much so that a bunch of baseball players many years ago went out and actually tried to hit softballs, right? And softballs are pitched at a closer, the mound is closer, it's lower, it's pitched underhand. And a woman actually ended up striking out all these baseball players because their system was specialized to baseballs and to detecting, the neurons in their brains were good at detecting baseballs. But when the softball came, which they were not specialized in, they actually couldn't hit it.
Oh, wow. That's very interesting how we condition ourselves if we spend a lot of time in practicing something. Thank you so much. That's unfortunately all the time we have for this topic today. I could chat about it much longer, but Arturo Hernandez, Professor, it was really good to have you today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, so I guess there's still a chance that I could be a tennis champ or even a grand.
Maybe not world class, but you know what? We don't need to aim that high.
Hey, I like to believe.
Yeah.
I could be a chess grandmaster.
Never say never, right?
Well, when you play chess, you gotta move and then you gotta tap the timer with that same hand so that you can't move and then use your other hand to save time.
Oh yeah, see, a couple of seconds getting lost there. So you better start practicing now, I guess.
Yeah, I picked it up a little later in life.
Oh, okay.
But I enjoyed it, a little friendly competition.
Yeah, I'm sure. There you go. You have the bases, and now you just got to go through with it.
Yeah, a lot of practice.
All right. We're heading to a quick break here, but we'll be back in just a minute or so stay tuned for more.
There are real consequences to controlled media. And NTD's founders know them firsthand. Our freedom of thought is the price. This is the lesson that guides us in everything we do.
Yeah, so there's the tear gas there.
We know the value of a free society. And we take seriously the responsibility to preserve it. We are NTD.
Welcome to NTD.
Good morning. Here are today's top stories. The U.S. stepping up efforts to support Ukraine as President Biden is set to meet with Pope Francis in Italy, the latest from the G7 summit, and the new security agreement between the U.S. and Ukraine.
While former President Trump returns to the nation's capital, First Lady Jill Biden hits the campaign trail targeting senior voters in key swing states. President Biden aims to secure support from voters aged 65 and older.
Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, a map from the Lewis and Clark expedition, lyrics from The Sound of Music. A new Washington, D.C. exhibition has a lot to offer history-loving visitors.
A study says 3-year-old girls are obsessing over their looks. Teens are overdoing it with skin creams, alarming dermatologists. What role is social media playing, and how can parents combat this? A Healthy Living expert's perspective.
The world's most prestigious cooking competition was held in New Orleans this week. Team USA faced stiff competition but was focused on winning. Find out how they did.
This is NTD Good Morning. Live from our global headquarters, here are Evelyn Lee and Kevin Hogan.
Welcome to NTD.
Happy Friday. Today is June 14th. We're heading to today's top news. President Biden is signing a 10-year security pact with Ukraine as he announces new steps to counter China and Russia.
It comes as G7 leaders will soon unveil their final communique. And speaking to reporters, President Biden said he will not pardon his son Hunter, who was convicted on felony gun charges.
Yeah, he also said he won't shorten or commute the sentence as well. So that was an interesting tidbit, and we want to hear more this morning from NTD's White House correspondent, Iris Tao, who's on the ground in Italy.
It's day 2 of the G7 summit here in Italy, and leaders are focused on helping Ukraine and countering threats posed by China. President Biden this morning talking with Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni about a new G7 agreement to use profits generated by frozen Russian assets to fund Ukraine.
We're not backing down.
Biden confirmed the move last night as he, together with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, signed a 10-year security agreement pledging long-term U.S. support for Ukraine.
Not by sending American troops to fight in Ukraine, but by providing weapons and ammunition, expanding intelligence sharing, continuing to train brave Ukrainian troops.
Biden also called out China for its role in supporting Russia. The U.S. has just expanded sanctions to stop China from supplying Russia with materials used in the war.
China is not supplying weapons, but the ability to produce those weapons and the technology available to do it. So it is, in fact, helping Russia.
Meanwhile, Friday's talks will be dominated by concerns surrounding China's industrial overcapacity. Biden today will also meet with Pope Francis, the first pontiff to attend a G7 summit. Reporting from Bari, Italy, Iris Howe, NTD News.
And over to the Middle East, terrorist group Hezbollah continues to increase hostilities at Lebanon's southern border.
The Iran-backed terror group launched more rockets and drones at Israel yesterday for a second day in a row.
The terrorist group vowed to step up attacks after an Israeli strike killed one of its senior commanders this week.
Israeli officials say around 40 projectiles were fired from Lebanon yesterday afternoon. Hezbollah said it launched attack drones at Israel's Northern Command headquarters, an intelligence headquarters, and a military barracks.
Israeli officials say 2 people were wounded by shrapnel. Group of 7 leaders meeting in Italy said they were very concerned about the situation at the Israel and Lebanon border.
And now Iraq and Iran's foreign ministers are showing concerns about a possible war in Lebanon.
Meanwhile, Secretary of State Antony Blinken says the haggling by Hamas needs to stop. He's urging Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar to end the war.
Blinken told NBC yesterday Sinwar is relatively safe underground, while the people he claims to represent are suffering every day.
Meanwhile, a senior Hamas member told CNN no one has an idea how many of the remaining 120 hostages are still alive.
The terrorists demanded any deal must come with guarantees of a permanent ceasefire and the complete withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza.
The U.S. military says missiles fired by Yemen's Houthi terrorists struck a cargo ship yesterday in the Gulf of Aden. Central Command said one crew member was severely injured.
The UK said 3 missiles yesterday struck the merchant ship flying under the flag of Palau. They sparked a fire and damaged the ship. The attack marked the second Houthi hit on a merchant ship in 2 days. The group said its campaign would continue until hostilities in the Gaza Strip end.
A U.S. Navy aircraft lifted the injured sailor to a ship nearby for medical attention.
CENTCOM said the merchant vessel was sailing to Italy. A day earlier, Houthi terrorists took responsibility for an attack on a Greek-owned cargo ship.
Meanwhile, with just over 4 months until the general election, President Biden is ramping up his campaign. First Lady Jill Biden is reaching out to seniors, a demographic that makes up a large share of the population in some swing states.
Jill Biden is pushing back against concerns about her husband's age. It comes as President Biden is gaining with voters his own age. The First Lady is traveling across several swing states to kick off her husband's outreach to senior voters. Her travels include rallies.
You know, a lot of presidents talk about infrastructure, but Joe made sure that communities like this one are getting the money you need to rebuild your bridges, your roads, your railways, your airports, and so many other infrastructure projects.
And also bingo nights and pickleball games. Biden is working to become the first Democrat in nearly a quarter century to win those 65 and over. A Democratic community organizer in Michigan describes what she hopes will be a revival with senior voters.
They're at a point in their life where they've seen how politics has changed and recognize that it's a priority for them.
Grand Rapids and surrounding Kent County is a bellwether within battleground Michigan. Biden won here and statewide in 2020 after Trump narrowly carried both 4 years earlier. Older voters are weighing in on the November race.
I never thought I'd be one of those people holding up a political sign or being involved, but I can't sit back.
I feel betrayed. Right now, I'm not going to vote for president. The Palestine thing it's a red line, and he's not there.
Senior voters are a much sought-after section of the electorate because they are reliable and turn out to vote.
Former President Trump held separate meetings yesterday with House and Senate Republicans in a bid to unite the party ahead of the 2024 elections.
Congressman Thomas Massie said something interesting on X, that Trump briefly brought up the idea of getting rid of income tax and replacing it with an all-tariff policy. Massie called it an intriguing policy idea.
Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene also commented on social media, saying she was thrilled to hear Trump suggest raising tariffs and lowering taxes. Trump's campaign did not respond to requests for comment, but the former president said on social media there was lots discussed, all positive. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez has more details on Trump's meetings.
House Republicans met with the former president at the Capitol Hill Club. The meeting lasted over an hour. Right after, I spoke with Congressman Derek Van Orden, the Republican from Wisconsin, and I asked them what was the main message from today's meeting. Let's listen.
What was the main takeaway from this meeting? For
Unity, Donald Trump working to maintain and grow the majority in the House, take the Senate and the White House, move forward collectively to have a country that is safe, secure, and prosperous. I was sitting there. I had to wipe my eyes because I was laughing so hard because people don't understand how incredibly humorous President Trump is.
I also spoke with House Freedom Caucus member Congressman Byron Donalds, the Republican from Florida, and he said that the former president had no policy demands from lawmakers.
Did President Trump mention anything about House GOP strategy towards the DOJ?
No. He just talked about what he talked about was just how ridiculous the DOJ is. They have been weaponized against them. That's just a fact. And, so he talked about it, expressed himself. I think any American in his shoes would feel the same way.
Former President Donald Trump also met with Senate Republicans at the National Republican Senatorial Committee right after he held a short press conference. This is what he said.
This was a great meeting. There's tremendous unity in the Republican Party. We want to see borders. We want to see strong military. We want to see money not wasted all over the world. We don't want to see Russian ships right off the coast of Florida. which is what they are right now. That's unthinkable. We want to see just success for our country.
It's important to note that despite the public differences in between Senator from Utah Mitt Romney and former President Donald Trump, Senator Romney did attend the Senate GOP meeting with the former president. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
Coming up, a new report released yesterday by the Minnesota legislature blames the state's education department for failing to properly oversee a pandemic-era food aid program. This and more after the break.
Say goodbye to harsh, bitter coffee and hello to a delicious, smooth brew. With specialty quality beans, expertly roasted in-house, you'll taste the difference with every sip. Fermented with a blend of 50 enzymes, Days Coffee delivers a rich brew like no other. Made with the highest grade specialty beans available, you're sure to taste the difference. Elevate your morning with Days Enzyme Fermented Coffee.
As we naturally age, many people are getting zero amount of this incredible and unique substance. That's when we start seeing an impact in our joints, skin, nails, and even our digestion.
People ask me, Dr. X, what is the #1 supplement I should be taking? My answer is multi-collagen protein.
People's reactions to me, people were like, what are you doing? What is going on? You look amazing. You have a glow about you.
What makes Ancient Nutrition Multi-Collagen stand out from other brands? 10 types of collagen. It's grass-fed, pasture-raised with vitamin C and probiotics. It's proven to reduce joint discomfort rapidly, continuously, and persistently. It improves the appearance of crow's feet after 4 weeks and improves skin tone after 8 weeks. And it promotes hair thickness, growth, and a reduction in hair breakage.
It has transformed everything from my hair. Like, my hair was starting to kind of just, come out, and I don't have that anymore. My skin feels amazing.
Call the number on your screen and find out how to get a free bottle when you order, plus free shipping and our 30-day money-back guarantee. And as a bonus, we will include Dr. Josh Axe and Jordan Rubin's revolutionary book, Multi-Collagen Makeover, free with your order, plus free shipping and free returns.
I have implicit trust in Dr. Axe because the plan worked. I am living proof of it.
This is the collagen protein that is backed by clinical studies. It's what my family uses, it's what I use, and I know you're gonna benefit in a big way as well.
Love the results or get your money back. This special TV offer is not available in stores. Call the number on your screen or go online now.
Got a new house.
A place that I call home.
Welcome back. A series of storms flowing from the Gulf of Mexico swamps South Florida with flash floods. The storm stalled cars, canceled flights, and generally made life miserable for tens of thousands of people.
Some places got as much as 20 inches of rain in just a 48-hour period.
Dozens of cars could be seen still submerged in floodwaters yesterday afternoon in North Miami. Tow trucks were unable to pass due to the high waters.
Zooming out, a whole neighborhood can be seen inundated in water. Residents of Hollandale Beach, Florida expressed surprise over the extent of flooding in their neighborhood.
Flat Florida is prone to flooding even on sunny days, when so-called king tides surge in coastal areas, and tropical storms and hurricanes can trigger river flooding and overwhelm drainage systems.
Another 5 inches of rain are possible today. The National Weather Service said a flood watch remains in effect for all of South Florida tonight. Federal prosecutors say a Texas man has been charged with threatening an FBI agent over Hunter Biden's criminal case. Timothy Mueller was charged yesterday with making threatening communications across state lines. The complaint charges Mueller with influencing, impeding, or retaliating against a federal officer. The criminal complaint says on June 11th, Mueller called an FBI agent who had been assigned to investigate a laptop belonging to Hunter Biden. When the agent disconnected the call, Mueller called again and left a threatening voice message. Prosecutors say Mueller accused the agent of covering up crimes committed by Hunter Biden, and that if former President Trump is elected in November, the agent would be jailed.
Senate Democrats say U.S. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas took 3 additional trips funded by a billionaire benefactor.
Redacted documents show the justice traveled on a private jet between 2017 and 2021 on trips he didn't put in his financial disclosure form.
Thomas has come under fire for failing to disclose gifts from Texas billionaire Harlan Crow.
The chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee said Crow disclosed the travel details in response to a vote last November. It authorized him and another influential conservative figure to be subpoenaed.
A spokesperson said Crow agreed to provide information to the committee dating back 7 years. As a condition of this, he said the committee agreed to end its probe into Crow.
A Supreme Court spokesperson did not immediately respond to a request for comment.
It was one of the largest pandemic aid fraud cases in the country.
A new report released yesterday by the Minnesota legislature blames the state's education department for failing to properly oversee a pandemic-era food aid program.
The report says the agency ignored warning signs that led to the theft of $250 million federal dollars.
The program is called Feeding Our Future. It received funding from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The program was to be used for feeding children from low-income areas across the state. The Minnesota Department of Education was responsible for distributing the money. Instead, the nonpartisan report says lack of oversight from the department allowed for rampant abuse and fraud. Federal prosecutors have charged 70 people involved with the Feeding Our Future program, including its founder, with fraud. Investigators say the defendants took advantage of rules that weren't strictly enforced during the pandemic. They allegedly created invoices for meals never served, ran shell companies, laundered money, engaged in passport fraud, and accepted kickbacks.
Minnesota's education commissioner has rejected the auditor's portrayal of his agency's oversight.
In a written response, Commissioner Willie L. Jett said the education department's oversight met applicable standards and that department officials made effective referrals to law enforcement.
In Jett's words, the responsibility for this flagrant fraud lies in the indicted and convicted fraudsters. Switching gears, in a major legal development, a federal judge in Louisiana has blocked the Biden administration from enforcing a new rule related to gender identity in 4 states.
The rule is billed as protecting LGBT students from discrimination based on their gender identity in schools and colleges.
District Judge Terry Doty issued a preliminary injunction yesterday. It bars the Department of Education rule from taking effect in Louisiana, Mississippi, Montana, and Idaho.
Those states had argued that unless the rule was blocked, schools would be required to allow boys and men who identify as women to use female bathrooms and locker rooms.
Judge Doty said enacting the changes in the final rule would subvert the original purpose of Title IX, which protects girls and women from discrimination. Now, let's also talk about physical appearance. Society has placed a certain value on it, but now there is a study that shows girls as young as 3 years old are obsessing over their looks.
The Society for Research in Child Development published its findings after interviewing 170 kids aged 3 to 5. But tweens are also showing signs of overdoing it in this area.
There's this trend out now called the Sephora Kid. It reflects how young girls are going all out with skincare products, and it's raising concerns among dermatologists.
Why is this happening? What are the harms, and how can we help kids avoid them? Here's what Jana Johnson, a healthy living expert, told me about this.
You know, Kevin, I think that the reason that they are is because it's constantly talked about in our society. It's all over social media. Their moms are doing it. And I think that it's just becoming this idea of perfection. And, you know, it sounds really healthy, right, to care about our skin, and it is. But we can also overdo it. And we don't need our little girls putting tons of chemicals all over their face.
Overdo it is right. A New York-based dermatologist, Dr. Lauren Penzi, she's saying that some of these younger patients she has coming in are getting worse acne because they're just slathering on all these ointments and maybe like a pore overload here. You mentioned social media. Is there any way that parents can help guide their young daughters on how to navigate this to alleviate some of that pressure?
Absolutely. As a mom of 3 kids and my 2 oldest being teenagers, boy and girl, I see it with both of them in social media. And so there's a few things as a parent you can do, which is to mediate their content they look at, right? Look at their filters that they're looking at and things like that. And make sure that they understand that the things that they see on social media, there's filters used, there's lenses used. These people are not showing their true selves. And so this perfection that our kids see is not real.
Yeah, that distorted reality. Those filters can kind of put an airbrush feel, so they feel like they have to live up to this fictitious standard here. Does society need to convey to these young girls in some way that you're just fine the way that you are?
Yes, I think it's by doing that ourselves. You know, I of course always like to look my very best, but I make sure that my daughter also sees me just enjoying myself without makeup, and that I don't have to feel like I have to look perfect every day. And I think if we can push that in social media, you know, honestly, our kids shouldn't be on social media as much. It's just putting too much in their heads and a lot of negative stuff and a lot of things that are not true as well. And I think that as a mom, we have to also show our kids that.
And this dermatologist I mentioned said that there's rashes, itching, things like that as a result of maybe some allergic reactions to too many of these creams here. That's a little bit of the physical effects, but what are the long-term mental effects of having so much pressure about this at a young age?
It is the idea of perfection, right? And perfectionism is a mask. And that right there takes a huge toll on you mentally and emotionally. And you don't see that, right? You don't see what people are feeling mentally or emotionally. You just see the physical things. But if your daughter, if your kid is constantly wanting to look perfect and get into all these products, then that means that there's probably something inside that maybe they're trying to make feel better. And I think that we got to address that first. You know, it can be really cute to see little girls having their spa days and things like that. I've done that myself with my daughter, but it can't just be all about how you look. It needs to be how you feel inside.
Thank you so much for weighing in on this. Jana Johnson, healthy living expert.
Thank you.
Wow, that is actually something that I have not actively thought about. But of course, it's getting younger and younger, and those kids are probably still looking for role models, and we're getting bombarded by these unattainable beauty standards every day.
Yeah, and speaking of role models, it's those elementary age influencers on TikTok that go through their 12-step skincare routine, trying to pressure their peers. Those are the Sephora kids.
Wow, that is incredible. Yeah, definitely not. More is not better in this case, absolutely not. But yeah, even, you know, nowadays we see a lot of faces on TV maybe that have beauty procedures done but don't necessarily reveal that. So that again can cause a standard that is just not necessarily natural, but you don't know it.
Yeah, and those filters are really not helping things.
Absolutely.
And you got to be careful because in kindergarten, that's those formative years, and if they obsess too much about their looks, according to Akron's children, it shows that they can get anxiety or even feelings of isolation.
Yeah. Very sad. All right, we're heading to a quick break now. Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, a map from the Lewis and Clark expedition, lyrics from The Sound of Music. A new Washington, D.C. exhibition has a lot to offer to history-loving visitors.
Ancient Scandinavians, often referred to as the Vikings, might not have been so simple and barbaric as they've been portrayed for the last decades. In order to understand the Vikings on a deeper level, we need to take a closer look at their original belief system, their earliest ethical principles and worldview, which are revealed in the myths, stories, and prophecies of their times. In many of the Viking stories, we learn about the dangers of corruption of the human soul. And all this ties into how and why the world and humankind eventually degenerates, leading up to the end times and the last battle between good and evil. In this episode, we're going to take a look into the inner world of the ancient Scandinavians and get acquainted with two of their most central tales that reveal their guiding principles for humankind, both for themselves as well as for mankind in modern times.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, I have an important message about security. Write down the number on your screen so you can call when I finish. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. This is a lock for your life insurance, a rate lock that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. But be careful. Many policies you see do not have one. But you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. Call this number to learn more. This plan was designed with a rate lock for people on a fixed income who want life insurance that fits their budget and is simple to get. Coverage options start at $9.95 a month, less than 35 cents a day. Act now, and your rate will be locked in for life. It will never increase, guaranteed. This is lifelong coverage that can never be canceled as long as you pay your premiums, guaranteed. And your acceptance is guaranteed, with no health questions. You cannot be turned down because of your health. Call for your information kit and read about this rate lock for yourself. You'll also get a free beneficiary planner. Both are free with no obligation. Don't miss out. Call for information, then decide. Read about the 30-day 100% money-back guarantee. Don't wait. Call this number now.
Call now and you'll also get this free beneficiary planner. Use this valuable guide to record important information and your final wishes, and it's yours free just for calling. So don't wait. Call 1-800-357-4821 for your free information. That's 1-800-357-4821. There's no risk or obligation. That number again is 1-800-357-4821. That's 1-800-357-4821. 1-800-357-4821. Call now.
Thanks for staying with us.
And if you're just joining us now, here are today's top headlines. Senate Republicans blocked a Democrat-sponsored bill that would have established a legal right to use in vitro fertilization. It failed in a 48-47 vote yesterday. The move to enshrine access to IVF follows a February decision from the Alabama Supreme Court. The ruling says human embryos created through the process are legally children under state law.
First Lady Jill Biden is campaigning for her husband across several swing states. President Biden is looking for support from a key election demographic, senior citizens. This while former President Trump returns to the nation's capital to meet with House and Senate Republicans in a bid to unite the party.
Lebanese terror group Hezbollah launched a second consecutive day of attacks into northern Israel. Israeli officials say around 40 projectiles crossed the border yesterday. The Iran-backed aggression is stoking fears of a possible war in Lebanon. A group of 7 leaders in Italy say they were very concerned. The U.S. military is asking for de-escalation.
President Biden signed a new security agreement with Ukraine yesterday, pledging long-term U.S. support during his meeting with the G7 in Italy. The deal says the U.S. will provide weapons, ammunition, and intelligence for Ukraine. It's meant to be a step toward Ukraine's eventual NATO membership. Now get ready for a new cultural experience. The Collecting Memories exhibition is now open at the David M. Rubenstein Treasures Gallery in Washington, D.C.
NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on the exhibit, which has over 120 items, including Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, a map from the Lewis and Clark expedition, and lyrics from The Sound of Music.
This inaugural display in the Library of Congress's Thomas Jefferson Building started on Thursday, June 13th, and runs until December 2025. Lead exhibition director Cheryl Regan.
This is material from all parts of the library, across time, made across the world. And so this is really kind of a coming out party for this incredible collection that we have, and a way to tell the visiting public, which is vast, what it is we do, what it is we collect.
Regan says the collection has a little bit of everything.
You know, everything from cuneiform tablets made in 1900 BCE to contemporary material we collected during the COVID pandemic. So the range is broad.
Regan says the Library of Congress has 178 million items and continues to grow every single day. The exhibition director discusses some of the new collection pieces that commemorate the history of the civil rights movement.
What is astounding that you see in the exhibition are oral histories with people that were very involved with the civil rights movement. And so their recollections, their stories, and you hear excerpts from 6 of those individuals in the exhibition.
Visitors to the exhibition can dive into the rich history of how cultures preserve memories with artifacts like voice recordings, manuscripts, photographs, and more. Some of the highlights include Freud's papers, Franciscan missionary texts, Hammerstein's Do-Re-Mi lyrics, and Hiroshima bomb documentation. Funded by a $10 million gift from philanthropist David M. Rubenstein, this exhibition is part of a larger plan to enhance the library's visitor experience. So be sure not to miss out. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Really cool items on display.
I was going to say the exact same thing. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, 407 years ago, Gettysburg Address, really historic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. We're going to go to the next story here. Buy now, pay later has become increasingly popular for American shoppers, but the service does come with some risks. NTD's Andrew Thomas spoke with an experienced consumer finance analyst to learn more.
Buy now, pay later is an attractive proposition for shoppers, but third-party companies offer these payment plans, and that can make things complicated for consumers and retailers. A new Consumer Financial Protection Bureau rule hopes to address the issue.
There's a middleman involved. Sometimes you've returned the merchandise to the retailer and the buy now, pay later company is still asking for its cut, or maybe it's a different kind of dispute. Maybe it's that something was damaged or didn't arrive as promised. Credit cards have very strict, organized dispute processes, and buy now, pay later is now going to have to abide by the same rules.
Why is the CFPB mandating this rule now? Has it been a long time coming?
It's more of a clarification. Like, it's one of these things that's been out there for a while, but it wasn't entirely clear if buy now, pay later fit under this umbrella. That's actually very emblematic of the credit bureau situation as well, because it's kind of a square peg, round hole.
Do you think the new rule will have any unintended consequences?
One would be if it becomes more expensive to borrow because companies have to raise costs because they're spending more on compliance or customer service, or maybe they crack down a bit more on returns and they frown upon people that are returning too much merchandise.
In 2022, the CFPB found that more than 13% of buy now, pay later transactions involved a disputed charge or a return. In 2021, consumers disputed or returned $1.8 billion in transactions at 5 large buy now, pay later companies.
There is that whole friendly fraud issue, too, where you dispute even legitimate transactions. You should always try to work it out with the merchant first. If something didn't fit or was damaged or never arrived, don't go right to the credit card dispute or the buy now, pay later dispute. It's better to try to work it out with the retailer.
Buy now, pay later payment plans are usually marketed as 0 or low interest, but Rossman gives us a friendly reminder. Buy now, pay later still means taking on debt.
So it's not $200 anymore, right? It's just 4 easy payments of $50. That's what they want you to think. It is kind of that infomercial thing about buy now. There's often an instant impulse buy kind of tendency, especially online. Sometimes people can overspend.
According to an April Bankrate survey, more than half of Buy Now, Pay Later customers have experienced at least one issue with the payment plan. The most reported problem? Spending too much. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Well, yeah, and Affirm actually is teaming up with Apple so that you can do Apple Pay and you can do the Buy Now, Pay Later, and you get all those features that come with it.
And it's more convenient than ever. It's a mind trick, isn't it? And we just learned that, if you don't pay cash, you tend to spend more, and now that takes even more of that barrier to spend money.
Oh, that's what they call that hidden debt that American families have.
Yeah.
You got to knock that down.
Be aware. Just be aware. All right. And as owning a home has owning a home become more costly for Americans, mortgage payments aren't the only thing on the rise. The hidden costs of home ownership are also surging.
A new study finding U.S. homeowners are paying an average of $18,000 per year on expenses. We take a look at what you need to know about these costs.
The price for owning a home rapidly rising. A new Bankrate study finding U.S. homeowners are now paying on average a little more than $18,000 a year on expenses linked to owning and maintaining a home.
These are the things that aren't part of the price of the home. They're not part of your monthly principal and interest payment. These are the extras.
Things like utility bills and other expenses, property taxes, and the big one, according to Bankrate, maintenance costs. All of which add up to higher hidden expenses compared to just 4 years ago.
Inflation overall was up 21% cumulatively, and the price or the cost of maintaining a home was up 26% according to our estimate.
Ostrowski says the goal of the survey was to raise awareness of these growing costs, particularly among first-time home buyers.
They've been scrimping and saving to get a down payment together. They finally qualified for the mortgage. They get to the closing table and they think, oh, we're at the finish line. But really, they're just at a starting line for another race, which is figuring out how to pay for these ongoing costs of homeownership.
Jennifer Branchini with the National Association of Realtors offers this advice: advanced inspections, getting a home warranty, taking a look at similar homes and their history of costs.
So that when they're looking at their overall budget and preparing an offer, that they're making sure they have those funds set aside for that.
Yeah, and some of these Bankrate analysts are saying that once you get to the closing table, a lot of people think like, all right, that's the end here, I hit the finish line, but it's just the start.
Yeah, I gotta look long term, really.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised.
We're going to break here. The world's most prestigious cooking competition was held in New Orleans this week. Team USA faced stiff competition, but was focused on winning. Find out how they did.
And today marks the start of the Euro 2024 Soccer Championship. Countries are showing their patriotic pride in different ways. Join the festivities after the break.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
Presenting the heritage of traditional Chinese martial arts, fostering martial ethics, and reviving the true tradition. Preliminaries of the 2024 NTD International Traditional Chinese Martial Arts Competition will be held across Germany, Taiwan, and New York. The grand finals will be broadcast live online worldwide in September 2024. For more information, please call 1-888-477-9228.
Do you know that Cars for Compassion is the best way to donate your car? Through this non-profit program, you can not only help us keep bringing the world independent and daringly truthful journalism, but also significantly impact the life of somebody who needs a vehicle. The Epoch Times fights misinformation and big tech censorship by being independent and unbound to advertisers. Every single contribution to Cars for Compassion is a powerful endorsement of our unwavering mission. All you have to do is go to carsforcompassion.org and let us know about your car, and we'll schedule a pickup time and email you a tax-deductible receipt. To do this, just click the link below, support Truth, Compassion and Hope, donate your car right now at www.carsforcompassion.org.
Is deep-sea fish oil really healthy? Due to pollution in the oceans, most fish contain heavy metal elements and radioactive substances. That's why it's so important to choose a pure source of omega-3. Puritang Green Vegetable Omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds, which are rich in nutrients and minerals, especially vitamins A, D, E, calcium, and iron. With natural processing and no harmful chemical additives, it has more than 90% concentration of omegas 3, 6, 7, and 9. It effectively improves brain power and is beneficial to the heart's health. Puritang Omega-3 does not smell of fish and contains no pollutants, so both adults and children can safely and easily consume it over a long period of time. Puritang Green Vegetable Omega-3. Greener, healthier, and more effective. Visit puritang.com to learn more.
After 15 years of smoking, Eva Marie quit. There's a new lung cancer screening that could save her life. You stopped smoking. Now start screening. Learn more at savedbythescan.org.
Welcome back. Two chefs representing the U.S. competed at a prestigious international food competition in New Orleans this week.
They used flavors from their native California in hopes of securing a victory. Let's take a look.
The Bocuse store is an international cooking competition held every other year. This regional competition for the Americas was held this week in New Orleans. A committee of chefs picks the ingredients each team must prepare. This year's competition featured ingredients associated with New Orleans cuisine.
It's a very tough decision because, I mean, it's like, do you go the gumbo route? You know, somebody in Peru know how to make gumbo, you know, so we chose alligator sausage, grits, wild boar rack, and seafood from the Gulf of Mexico.
Team USA consists of Chef Stephanie De Palma and her assistant Bradley Waddle, both from California. The team formed recently for this competition.
We met for the first time 7 weeks before we competed, so it was a very quick turnaround. We get along very well. We have a lot in common, and I think we make a great team.
While they face stiff competition, Chef De Palma has her eye on the prize.
Chefs, but for me personally, I have one goal in mind, and that's to reach the top of the podium.
De Palma describes what she calls a California celebration of Louisiana shellfish. Chef De Palma describes the dish they prepared for the competition.
So we really wanted to highlight each individual component, but then make it a very cohesive dish, and also really draw inspiration from where we're from in California and be very seasonal in what we selected with, or what we served with. So we incorporated, beautiful tomatoes, corn, squash blossoms.
They also cooked a refined corn dog with alligator sausage, encrusted with a batter of buttermilk, grits, and cornmeal. The chefs are happy and proud to represent their country.
Representing your country as a chef is a very rare thing, and to be able to do this and represent our country alongside all of these other really amazing chefs that are doing the same. We all have the same amount of time, we all have the same ingredients. To do that it's really special.
A panel of 24 renowned chef judges awarded Team USA the win. Now they'll move on to the finals in France in January.
Let's go, Team USA!
Congrats, Team USA, on taking gold. It's called, I've seen people refer to it as the Olympics of cuisine, so.
Yeah, it's really awesome. And I mean, I love some Creole cuisine. You get some jambalaya, a little tomato, get that red in there.
Yeah, wow, you're making me really, I haven't had breakfast yet, so I'm just looking at this like, I'm out of here in a minute.
And I've made some gumbo. It's really good. Yeah, you make that roux, with the butter and the flour. I've had red beans. Friends made it. It's awesome stuff.
Yeah, sounds delicious. All right, let's talk about a different competition, probably not less important, because excitement is ramping up for soccer fans across the world. Today marks the start of the Euro 2024 championship.
Germany is hosting the month-long competition, and countries are showing their patriotic pride in different ways. Let's take a look.
Soccer fans rejoice. The Euro 2024 Championship starts today in Munich. Fans are buzzing with excitement and rooting for their country to win in colorful ways. In The Hague, Netherlands, they're painting the town orange. On this street, houses are plastered with orange tarps and banners. Streetlights and trees are wrapped in orange. Garbage containers are, you guessed it, orange. It's taken a crew of volunteers weeks to finish the work.
It's a lot of work. We've been busy with it for about 8 weeks. Preparation started in January and February with meetings.
Besides showing national pride for their country's team, the decorations serve another purpose.
You meet other people, have a chat. The children like it, the people like it. It really brings people together. That's our number one priority in a multicultural neighborhood.
Scottish fans are out in droves ahead of today's match against Germany, wearing traditional kilts and playing bagpipes. Germany is hosting the championship at 10 different venues across the country. Authorities are going to great lengths to ensure the safety of the teams and fans. This arena in Dusseldorf was searched yesterday by dozens of sniffer dogs and almost 200 police officers for explosives and other dangerous substances.
Now before UEFA takes over the stadiums, the police check once again. Are there any explosive devices or similar? Yes or no? Or suspicious parts? And that's why every nook and cranny is searched.
Today is the start of the group matches. The final match for the championship will be held in Berlin on July 14th. Total prize winnings for the tournament are around $360 million. The champion will take up to $30 million of the total prize purse.
Soccer bonanza, I love it.
Me too. And if you want to know how the games will end, make way for Paul the Psychic Octopus. There's a new Nostradamus in soccer, and she's a very big deal.
Meet Booby, the Oracle African elephant who lives in a reserve in Thuringia in central Germany.
On Wednesday, this clairvoyant pachyderm kicked a soccer ball into a goal marked with the German flag, predicting victory for Germany against Scotland in the opening game of Euro 2024.
Just don't let the Scots know. Booby could be seen afterwards celebrating her prediction by waving the black, red, gold tricolor of Germany.
Keepers discovered her enthusiasm for soccer by chance when a ball rolled into her enclosure and Booby immediately kicked it back.
As for the accuracy of her psychic powers, well, we'll find out today after the game in Munich.
Yeah, well, I wonder if anybody will put money on that bet.
Yeah, right. And I wonder if there are any hooligan elephants out there rabble-rousing.
Yeah, hardcore soccer fans. Almost said football.
Yeah,
sorry.
careful.
Not the same thing here. All right. And photos of a white bison calf in Yellowstone National Park are generating some excitement.
Park officials say they've never seen a white calf in the park before.
A park visitor said she took the photos in the park earlier this month. The pictures show a fuzzy white youngster being nuzzled by its dark brown mother.
The executive director of the National Bison Association said it's unclear how often white bison calves are born in the wild. He said the association has never tracked this in history.
Experts say there are 2 genetic variations that can result in unusually light-colored white animals. The animal inherits 2 copies of the gene mutation in both cases, one from each parent, who usually appear normally colored themselves.
Geneticists say there's also a third possibility. A light-colored calf could be the result of a bison crossed with a white domestic cow.
Wow, but apparently it's so rare. There's Native American tribes now that say that this is fulfilling a prophecy. And it's good news because it supposedly predicts better times ahead.
Wow, we're going all Gregor Mendel on this. What if you crossed a bison with a moose?
Oh my gosh, I don't know what would come out of that. Some freaky animal. All right, and moving on, how far would you go to provide for your child?
A Georgia man pushes himself to the brink to provide for his son on a survival show with $500,000 at stake. NTD's Daniel Monahan speaks with a contestant from the hit program Alone.
Mikey Helton Jr. says he grew up a country boy.
Always in the woods, fishing, hunting, tracking, all of that good stuff.
Always interested in survival, Helton tried to apply for Season 2 and 6 of Alone, but life always got in the way. When the call for Season 10 in Reindeer Lake, northern Saskatchewan rolled around, Hilton found new inspiration.
Season 10, the inspiration was my youngest child. He has severe autism, and so I wanted to win that money to give him a better life, you know.
Hilton says finding food was hard, with very few animals around and the fish in the lake not biting. He did set up snares to catch squirrels.
So the little red squirrels would either push it to the side or jump over it, you know, or go around. They were outsmarting me with the snares. And
the survival show contestant managed to feed on some mice using deadfall traps and other methods.
Once I started getting really bad insomnia, I was staying up most of the night, and so I was just using a stick and a string, and I would pull the string and the rock would fall. I would sit there and watch the mice go up under the rock, and I'd pull it and it'd fall.
Despite his struggles to get food, Hilton displayed incredible endurance and capacity to withstand extreme suffering. He managed to last an amazing 55 days, making it to the top 3, the whole time focused on his son. He was just 11 days shy of the winning time.
Out of those 55 days, I lost 86 pounds. Never caught a fish. The lake was killing me. It was a long, hard, cold 55 days, though. If I would have stayed longer, then I probably would have gotten some severe frostbite. Don't want that. My feet were already swollen up really bad and really red.
Hilton says survival skills are important for children because they get them away from technology.
If you walk into a store and you see anybody, they're usually looking straight down. That's because they're looking at their phone. They don't have any idea what's around them. They have no connection to it. And so giving these kids an opportunity to connect to nature, giving them an opportunity to have some other outlet, you know, to get them off of social media for 10 minutes, maybe take them out, shoot the bow, or take them out and just watch birds or anything. It really brings them back to nature, shows them what's actually real. And I like that. That's a beautiful thing.
Hilton has lots of skills in a workshop. He even crafted some survival gear while on alone.
I still have one of the arrows that I made all along. So that's grouse feather. This is a spruce tip, some paracord. And this is a pike jawbone that I found on the lake.
The Georgia man has a YouTube channel where he teaches people how to make bows, guns, fishing lures, deadfall traps, and other crafts. A new season of Alone premieres Thursday, June 13th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, only on the History Channel. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Wow, that is some true grit right there.
Yeah, and I think it almost feels like the fact that you're alone out there is the scariest part. And of course, you know, hearing what he went through and just really went through with it, he ate mice to survive and all these things. That's good for him.
Yeah, pretty serious stuff. And actually, this guy named Roland holds the record, 100 days alone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can't imagine. All right, we're wrapping up our show right here, but be sure to stay tuned for NTD's News Today broadcast at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. That's still coming up.
And for round-the-clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app.
That's right. Thanks for watching. I'm Evelyn Lee.
I'm Kevin Hogan. Have a nice weekend.
Imagine a coffee that cares for your health. Expertly fermented with a 50 enzyme complex